some 600 plus private capital leaders from within Africa and around the world are meeting later this year in Cape Town, South Africa, to discuss the venture capital industry on the continent. The summit will focus on how private and venture capital investors can harvest super returns on their monies in view of, nasty global inflation, interest rates, and other risk elements. Gbite Oduneye is the founder and managing partner at ODBA Markets, which is a pioneering early-stage venture capital firm that champions innovative solutions. You're welcome to the Arise Exchange. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening.
It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. As far as this new year, 2024, is shaping up for venture capital, what's it looking like for you?
Well, 2023 was a difficult year for a number of us. 2024, cautiously optimistic is the word. Yes, we are expecting some changes from what has gone on in years gone. Things like we're expecting more local investors to lead rounds. We're expecting there to be a decrease of capital coming in from the States and Europe, but it doesn't dry up completely. It just reduces a bit. We also expect a number of the venture capital firms that invest, we expect due diligence. Not to say that due diligence wasn't robust before, but we're expecting it to be a lot more robust.
So what are the, do I read out the letters for your company or pronounce it?
ODBA.
ODBA,
yeah.
So I do pronounce it. Thank you so much for that. As far as your focus is Africa?
Yes, we're an African focused fund, fintech, edtech, and health tech, early stage.
Lovely. So now, what are the headwinds? What are you facing on the continent now as far as?
Well, interest rates, inflation, access to capital, which has always been difficult, and now it's a bit more difficult, right? Yeah. So it's access to capital is a difficult one. Of course, exchange rates in places like Egypt, Kenya, and Nigeria too, because in dollar terms, what that has done is it's completely, everybody's taken a massive haircut on their revenue.
Yeah.
And since most of these investments are in US dollars, and we report back in US dollars once we convert, in some cases, it's a 50% haircut.
Wow.
Right? So that's a massive haircut, and that also affects valuation. So it really is one of those years where you're doing well. You get rid of the excess. You tighten up that belt. Try and be as dynamic as you possibly can, because we expect it to be a difficult year. Yeah. Well, not difficult year, but not yet back to all the capital flowing in.
So as far as the sectors that look promising, so despite the hurdles, the inflation, the exchange rate, and so on and so forth, what is still enticing for venture capital on the continent? Is it technology or?
Well, yeah. I mean, technology is because if you think about it, the reason why technology will continuously be it's massive reach with limited resources, right? Well, not limited resources, but cheaper to reach a number of people. So we still expect financial technology, fintech, to be really education and healthcare are really paramount, and we've seen a lot of money go into healthcare so far this year. Fintech would we think still stay above, but health tech would closely follow.
See, I love your field. When you say education, what are you talking about? People putting money in private schools and how they get the money back. Are you what's the play for education?
Using technology to educate people. So as we do it now, it's you go into a school or classroom, or be it a university, and a teacher is stood there and they deliver. But now it's using technology, using screens to deliver. So that way you can do a lot more, reach a lot more people, enable education to be a bit more flexible. It's not just the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So when we think of education, and we've got to also look at it from the point of view that from where we are going forward, we're going to fundamentally see a change in education, as we've seen a change in society generally. So we've got to change the way in which we educate, because the jobs of the future are very, very different from the jobs of the past. So, and education goes across the board. It could be, financial education, or it could be the education that we know that, the K-12s or the secondary school or the university. But there will be a number of winners, because we're seeing a number of founders, a number of innovative individuals coming out with different ways to educate people, not too far away from what has been done before. The major block has been would it, would people take it on, right? Because it's going to be fundamentally different from what we're used to. And we strongly believe they will. Already we've seen a few years ago, being an influencer or a digital marketer was not it's not a job, was it?
Exactly.
But now it's completely different.
Yeah.
So education has to change. There will be a number of winners and there will be a number of people that would not win, because it's sort of like a research and development part until we get what works. And once we do get what works, and I suppose then everybody will scale it up.
What about healthcare? I mean, and I need to expand my thoughts here to Africa, but I'm biased towards Nigeria. But the healthcare challenges on the continent, in terms of electricity, doctors leaving, there's still opportunity in healthcare?
Yes.
Yeah?
So the doctors are leaving because obviously the infrastructure is not there, and they can get a lot more buck for their experience everywhere else. It's very similar to the education, the healthcare. A nation needs to be. I mean, COVID exposed a number of things, right? Yeah. Exposed a number of things. That it's almost as important as having a functional army. Right. That your healthcare has to be very robust. So telemedicine would be the first thing that would, it's been doing really well, which is delivering services using screens or using telephones, and also logistics, pharmaceutical logistics has been big. So there's a lot of opportunity in healthcare because, there's actually a massive gap. Yeah. So a number of companies are still working in silos, some together, but there's a massive opportunity in education.
Nigeria, the giant of Africa, is the competition across the continent. Are you seeing more competition? Are you being driven to like Egypt? Looks like they're getting an IMF loan, a big deal from the UAE. I hear the EU wants to designate them as a partner, so it looks like FX is going to be flowing into Egypt, and they might be riding the ship. Does that push you there? Or?
So we are African focused. So we do Egypt. Egypt is one of our markets, but we've got to bear in mind that yes, all this what you just mentioned is very true. But if you just go slightly, probably about 3, 4, 6 months before everything you've mentioned, it was the worst performing currency in the world. It was an absolute disaster. So, there's light for us at the end of the tunnel. They went through a certain amount of pain before they attracted the capital. And I think that's exactly what would happen to us. And we're not going anywhere away from Nigeria, because it's the population, the numbers, the age of the population. It has, I know we keep spitting these things out, but it's the reality. It's almost like talking about farming and, it's fertile land. Yeah. It's great to grow crops. Yeah. Now it's up to you if you irrigate it and you take care of the weeds, but it is fertile land. In another 15 years, I suppose we will not be able to say the half of the population is the age of 19, right? That would change. But for now, which is why it really is important that we move and we keep moving really quickly.
What about, just on the population thing, as you said, we keep spitting it out. What about the spending power of the population? The Minister of Finance, not too long ago, and I know this is a data point that was out before he mentioned it, said about I think it was 5% of the population has 500,000 naira. Yeah, so does that not play into this conversation as far as when we keep talking about population in Nigeria?
It does, but we didn't become poor yesterday. So what we're attempting to do is to change that 5% having 500,000. Right. What we're attempting to do is to build companies that would enrich and would be good for the nation. So those numbers change. At the moment, which is why it's really difficult to just directly compare ourselves with Silicon Valley or many of these centers in Europe, is because our economy and the individuals are not as rich. But it's been that way for as long as I can remember. Yeah. Now, yes, we might not be able to deliver the sort of returns in bigger places, but there's massive opportunity. So you've got to think of it from like the way you would have thought of a China, where we are hoping that we would see the population and the populace get richer as a result of technology. Yeah. That has to be achieved, because if not, there's a lot of problems down, a lot of problems down the line.
Only a minute left. Tech is payments, the space within tech that caught your eye?
It's still exciting. I mean, we have backed a number of payment companies. But there are a number of other, really exciting things, not just payments. Well, we'll be interested to see what happens now that, cryptocurrency and blockchain has become a bit more mainstream. What's going to happen with DeFi. A lot of exciting things. But I think what we can say is, over the last 2 to 3 years, we've picked a number of the fantastic things that have worked in Silicon Valley and Europe. Yeah. But it's very apparent now that the ones that are going to do really well and be successful are going to have to be contrarian. They're going to have to look at Africa and look at how to position themselves or what companies to back based on what they think of Africa, not just directly comparing it to Silicon Valley. So I think once we do get through this pain, because it is painful, there's the possibility for clear skies. And we learned a lot from the excesses of 2020, 2021. Yeah. So now we would, a number of founders and a number of individuals building exciting companies would be, a lot more prudent with regards to.
We gotta bring you back to review how things go. Gbite Oduneye, founder, managing partner at ODBA Markets. Fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.